Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are our top stories.
Former President Trump in New York today to attend the wake of a slain NYPD officer. And President Biden also in the city for a high-profile fundraiser with former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton.
Search efforts in the Baltimore bridge collapse are on hold as the investigation continues. Find out more about the progress and what authorities found so far.
The long-running legal saga of Sam Bankman-Fried is coming to an end. What is coming out of his sentencing hearing so far?
New information on the victims of the Moscow terrorist attack. Besides the many dead, reports are now saying that almost 100 people are still missing. We bring you the latest on the tragedy.
The Greek government under fire today. Opposition leaders want a no-confidence vote. That's over last year's train crash, the deadliest accident in the country's history. What's likely to happen?
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Hi, I'm David Lamb, sitting in for Chris Beers.
And to begin the show, it may be a while before we know exactly what happened with the bridge that collapsed in Baltimore, Maryland.
The chair of the National Transportation Safety Board, Jennifer Hamendi, spoke about the progress of their investigation last night.
This bridge was in satisfactory condition. The last fracture critical inspection was in May 2023. We have not been able to go through that inspection and all the documents, but that will occur after we leave the on-scene portion. And so I have no doubt that we will be able to pull this together in hopefully 12 to 24 months.
The NTSB says investigators boarded the cargo ship and found at least 56 containers carrying hazardous materials on board. They're mostly corrosives and flammables. Some of the containers were broken when the bridge collapsed.
The NTSB also obtained 6 hours of voyage data recorder information from the ship and will interview the ship's 2 pilots today.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers activated 1,100 personnel and will deploy them to Baltimore to clear the shipping channel. The collapsed bridge is blocking ships from entering and leaving the port of Baltimore.
The bodies of 2 construction workers were found in the water yesterday. Authorities have paused search efforts for the other 4 missing workers due to unsafe conditions for divers.
And the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore is stirring up memories of another bridge collapse. Here's the story from survivors of a 2007 bridge collapse in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
You're driving along, and without warning, the road drops from beneath you. There are a few seconds of falling, your thoughts possibly racing to family or loved ones, followed by a jarring impact and probably injury. Linda Paul survived a bridge collapse in Minneapolis on August 1, 2007. The I-35 West Bridge collapsed without warning into the Mississippi River in downtown Minneapolis during evening rush hour.
I kind of looked up at a freeway sign, the Washington Avenue exit freeway sign, and it started twisting and racking. And at that moment, I realized that the bridge was about to come down. And I was sitting on a bridge support over an expansion joint. And then it just split apart like a gigantic zipper.
Police later told her she plunged down a 50-foot slope as the concrete deck of the bridge collapsed. She was still inside her minivan as it fell onto wreckage on the riverbank. Chunks of concrete hit her, fracturing 5 of her vertebrae and crushing her left cheekbone. The collapse killed 13 people and injured 145. Jessie Shelton, now 35, was only 18 when she survived the Minnesota bridge collapse.
I just remember a jolting like an amusement park ride, like Tilt-A-Whirl or something like that. And I started rolling backwards, as I recall, and I said to myself, well, we'll see what happens. Like I wasn't panicked. I was like really putting my trust in the universe. And that's the last thing I remember.
She was knocked unconscious, suffering a concussion and injuries that broke her back in 4 spots. Although she's experienced more than just physical trauma from the bridge collapse, she still has a positive message to share.
I think there was a lot of fear that came into my head, my life after the fact, because this inconceivable thing, the ground falling out from beneath my feet, had happened. I think that community is really important, and the time and space to grieve and process, but then to keep going and pick yourself up and not let it ruin your life.
Linda Paul's compassion for the Baltimore bridge collapse survivors is evident.
I hope that the Maryland government steps up to the plate like the people of Minnesota did. That is my big concern, is will Maryland and will the national government step up to the plate and help these people and help their economy.
There are at least 6 people presumed dead in Tuesday's bridge collapse in Baltimore, although their bodies have not been found.
And now we'll hear from international military strategist, retired Lieutenant Colonel Darren Gov't, for insights on the potential impacts of the bridge collapse. Lieutenant Colonel, good to see you. The Key Bridge crosses an important thoroughfare for shipping. What's the likely impact on trade costs and supply?
Hey, good morning. Yeah, thanks for having me on this. There's going to be some significant trade impacts on this. Now, there's multiple ports around the country that these waiting ships can go to that are out there pending right now arrival, that are blocked, and those who can't leave as well, which is what I've heard is up to 40 or so ships who cannot leave the port either. So, if you imagine, a widget leaving the East Coast, having to move as far away as to the port in Los Angeles and then be driven across the country to the eastern seaboard again by truck, we're looking at costs, not only from fuel, but time. You're seeing potentially 2 to 3 times an increase in the cost for an individual item, depending on what it is, and other factors that are tied to it. So it's a pretty significant impact to the Northeast region specifically that could have some effects across the country as well.
And in terms of the types of items that might be affected, I know that construction machinery, especially for farms, and as well as sugar and salt, are commonly passed through that thoroughfare. What other impacts do you think could be involved here?
Well, we're looking at a lot. This size of a port, they're going to take in a lot of different types of material, but many of the container ships and other things that are waiting are dealing with vehicles. So, we're talking about upwards of 600 to 700,000 vehicles that will go through that port normally in a given year. So, those are all destined somewhere. There's people waiting on them whose businesses rely on the arrival of these vehicles in a timely manner. So that's just one example.
Okay.
When you talk about farm machinery, equipment, and others, well, it's spring. So that could have a pretty significant impact on the farming industry as well.
That's a great point. Now, I just want to check, estimates for rebuilding the bridge have varied from years to months or even weeks. What's your estimate?
I think the numbers that I've heard that are most consistent and that are most believable are anywhere from 12 to 24 months, depending on how the government gets involved, at what level, and the typical issues that the government has when it gets involved in construction projects, right? Especially right now when there seems to be a focus on everything except for merit and skill set. So 12 to 24 months, I think, is reasonable. I think any cost estimates that they're coming out now, you can expect those to potentially double or triple, because that's just the typical number that you see with government construction projects.
And you mentioned earlier the cars moving underneath the bridge being impacted. How about drivers who may typically have used that bridge? It's an important bridge.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about 30-something thousand vehicles a day going back and forth across that bridge. That's a significant number that will now be thrown into other corridors that take longer to get back and forth to work. These are 15,000 or so jobs impacted in the region. So everything that has anything to do with supporting port operations at a major port of this size will be impacted, all the way down to the individual workers and to the shoppers and to the economy in general. So this is a perfect butterfly effect of where something happens here and has an impact across the nation.
Now, Lieutenant Colonel, the FBI have all but ruled out a terror attack. A guest that we spoke to yesterday, a former National Security Council and FEMA official, said that the attack sends a signal essentially to terrorists worldwide of our weak points. As an international military strategist, what would you advise to counter this potential signaling?
Certainly. I mean, I know that most of these actors who want to harm the United States know most of our weak points and are willing to exploit them. This is just one example of if they hadn't thought of it before, they can see doing it now. But what I would say when it comes to the potential for terrorist acts across this country against our infrastructure is that it takes every single person in this country to keep their eyes open and to watch what is going on and not to rely on anybody else around them or government agencies to do that for them. They are the best eyes and ears in this country is the American citizen watching and recording what they see. And that's just what we need to do. Look at our southern border. That's part of the reason why we have to do that.
All right, Lieutenant Colonel Darren Gobb, always great to speak with you. Thank you so much.
You too, Steph. Thanks so much.
As they gear up for a November face-off, President Biden and former President Trump are set to visit New York City today. Biden has a fundraiser planned with former Presidents Obama and Clinton. Trump is set to attend a wake for slain NYPD officer Jonathan Diller. Here's more.
Trump has made support for law enforcement a focal point of his campaign against Biden in November's election. Polls indicate that the contest will be close. A Trump campaign spokesperson said that Trump was moved by the invitation to attend a wake for Officer Jonathan Diller. Diller was a 3-year veteran of the force. He was fatally shot during a traffic stop on Monday in Queens. Trump often portrays crime as out of control at his campaign rallies. Last year, he warned that America was becoming a lawless, open borders, crime-ridden, filthy communist nightmare. Trump posted a tribute to Officer Diller on his Truth Social platform on Tuesday. Across the aisle, President Biden is leaning on support from his Democratic predecessors. Former President Barack Obama met with Biden last week at the White House. He's agreed to several campaign appearances for Biden before November. One of those is a star-studded Manhattan fundraiser, which will also feature former President Bill Clinton. Late Show host Stephen Colbert will moderate a conversation between the three Democrats at Radio City Music Hall Thursday. Actress Mindy Kaling is set to host the program, with celebrity guests like Lizzo and Queen Latifah. The fundraiser is expected to be Biden's most lucrative to date. He already has a significant cash advantage over Trump, but his campaign has been plagued with low poll numbers and doubts about his age.
A California judge on Wednesday said ex-Trump lawyer John Eastman should be disbarred. This comes after a lengthy trial about Eastman's actions to challenge the 2020 election results. Eastman stands accused in the Georgia criminal case alongside former President Trump. He's accused of violating California attorney ethics rules against misleading courts and making false public statements.
The judge in California's State Bar Court said Eastman's actions were carried out with dishonesty. She said his plan to derail President Biden's election victory was unlawful and lacked factual or legal support.
Several other lawyers in Trump's orbit have also faced legal action over their 2020 election efforts. That includes former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani and former Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark.
The recommendation now goes to the California Supreme Court. It will decide whether to strip Eastman of his license. Eastman will have the opportunity to appeal the ruling.
And Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s independent presidential bid got a recent cash injection after the announcement of his running mate. A super PAC supporting the candidate says it raked in over $2 million after Kennedy chose attorney and entrepreneur Nicole Shanahan. The head of the American Values 2024 super PAC, Tony Lyons, told The Hill that donors were clearly energized by the selection of Shanahan.
38-year-old Shanahan is a California lawyer and philanthropist. She has never held elected office.
The attorney leads the Bia Echo Foundation. It's an organization she founded to fund issues like women's reproductive science, criminal justice reform, and environmental causes.
Christie says running on a third-party candidacy is out of the question for him. The former Republican presidential candidate rejected the idea yesterday. In a statement, the former New Jersey governor said while he appreciates the encouragement, it's not an avenue he wants to pursue.
Christie added that he can't have his candidacy help Trump retake the White House.
Christie ended his long-shot presidential run as a GOP contender in January, before New Hampshire's primary. The woman who admitted to stealing President Biden's daughter Ashley's diary didn't show up at her sentencing yesterday. A federal judge says she faces arrest as soon as tomorrow.
According to court papers, Amy Harris stole the diary after staying at a home in Delray Beach, Florida. Ashley Biden had once stayed at the home and was storing the diary and other possessions there.
Amy Harris allegedly helped sell the diary to the media group Project Veritas. Harris and an accomplice reportedly got $20,000 each for the diary, Ashley Biden's family photos, and other items.
Harris's lawyers had earlier told the judge that the Florida resident was unable to attend the sentencing because of childcare and other issues.
The sentencing is now postponed for a third time until April 9th. Former Senator and Vice Presidential candidate Joe Lieberman died yesterday afternoon. His family says he suffered complications from a fall. His wife and other relatives were with him when he passed away. The Connecticut native was elected to his home state Senate in 1970.
18 years later, he became the first Orthodox Jewish person to be elected to the U.S. Senate. In 2000, then Vice President Al Gore chose Lieberman as a running mate in his race for the White House, which they lost to George W. Bush and Dick Cheney.
Lieberman was a longtime Democrat, but he switched to the Independent Party in 2006. He remained there until he stepped down from the Senate in 2013.
More recently, he chaired the Independent Party called No Labels. The Army Corps of Engineers testifies before lawmakers over administrative fees that may burden businesses. We have that and more just after this break.
More than just beautiful dance. It's a touch of the divine. More than just legends. It's the beautiful culture and wisdom of China before communism. More than just a performance. It's an experience that awakens the soul.
Lincoln Center, NJPAC, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. Starting March 28th. Tickets at genuine.com.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. A few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
These are all farmers. Maybe
no,
not
there's
this
not
one.
a farm anymore.
But here's a farm, right?
No, there's also not a farm anymore.
All these people shut down because of the government policies?
Yeah.
The government wants to control the food. So we don't eat meat, but we eat insects.
As the price of staples goes through the roof, people will say, I can't afford a steak anymore. So, all right, I'll eat your stupid crickets.
Join us on NTD Good Morning because we want you to stay informed.
Kickstart your morning with the latest you missed overnight.
Right, and don't forget that inspiration.
Absolutely, so let's shine some light on the good news too.
Tune in every weekday morning to NTD News.
Is the Army Corps of Engineers overcharging businesses? Today we'll hear from key figures from the agency. The U.S. House will examine how the Corps of Engineers charges real estate administrative fees to public and private entities that are issued leases and licenses, and whether there's transparency.
The full House Oversight and Accountability Committee is at a field hearing in Jamestown, Kentucky. It's called A Burden to Business, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Assessment of Administrative Fees. Let's tune in.
$1,000 fee for a review of a marina development. So, Ms. Johnson, you as the chief of real estate, what do you think of those fees that I just mentioned there? Is that normal, or is that something that should be acceptable, or what do you think?
Well, sir, it is typical that we have a range of fees in the lower category for more simple licenses, more simple transactions. Renewals kind of in a medium range fee, and when we're doing new outgrants or full development reviews, then the fees are generally larger, and that is because there are more requirements associated with getting to those approvals and those instruments. So we're required to comply with NEPA and some other environmental laws, CERCLA. So the fees vary depending on the degree of review required.
Okay. General Quander, I'll ask you the same question. As the Division Commanding General, what do you think about those fees I just mentioned?
Chairman, we do our best to follow the policies that we have that govern these administrative fees, whether it's a standard fee or whether it's a more complex one. And at the end of the day, we're not trying to do something that's exorbitant. We're trying to do something that's reasonable and covers the cost of the folks doing the work that we've been asked to kind of oversee. But we acknowledge the results from the GAO report on some of the inconsistencies. And I think to Ms. Paula Johnson-Muick's comment earlier, wage rates differ from place to place, and so there is going to be some differences, but we acknowledge that we have work to do to relook it and then also be more consistent. And Chairman, that's part of what Ms. Johnson-Muick talked about with the corrective action plan from the GAO. We've read the report, and we have actions that we're going to do to address the findings from the GAO report, sir.
Mr. Von are these fees that I mentioned consistent with what GAO found in the discrepancies and inconsistencies of the fee schedule?
Yeah, we certainly found a wide range of fees that the Corps was charging, and while we didn't look at specifically whether any fee was appropriate or not, we looked at the sort of methodology about setting the fee. And so, as has been mentioned, like we are much more interested in the Corps having a consistent methodology for how they approach those fees, and that methodology closely reflect the costs to the Corps of executing that work.
Okay. We're going to dive more into these fees as we move forward today. I would like to note that I have a letter of support here from the Kentucky and Tennessee Marina Associations to the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, detailing the issues that we're here discussing today. I'd like to enter that letter of support into the record. So ordered. These are different than a committee hearing. I would have somebody object to that probably in the real oversight committee hearing. The Corps is one of many federal agencies that manages recreation sites on federal water resources. Agencies like the Bureau of Land Management, National Park Service, U.S. Forest Service, and the Tennessee Valley Authority also manage recreational lakes and do business with marinas. The Bureau of Land Management has an established fee schedule and updates it annually in alignment with OMB policy guideline. The National Park Service establishes guidance fees for businesses operating on their property based on the market price of the service provided, reviews their fees every 2 years, and mandates that fee schedules be placed on the applicable park's website. That's the National Park Service. General Quander, should the Corps do something like these other agencies, specifically the National Park Service, in how they determine their fee schedule?
Chairman, we, in terms of how we advertise our fee schedule, and I'll first acknowledge the way we do it right now is it is mostly between the Corps and the person we're working with via email. And I'll talk regionally from the Great Lakes and Ohio River Division. I won't comment on any of the other USACE divisions. But we're uneven across the board, and we acknowledge, again, the GAO report on that. Some districts do it better than others. And so for me, I've got to do a better job at a regional level of standardizing that. Some districts have stakeholder engagements where they talk about their fee structures. Some post them a little bit more publicly. Some email them out, and some don't. And so as the commander of the Great Lakes Ohio River Division, we're going to take a look at how we do a better job of that. I acknowledge the GAO report when it talked about more publication and how we advertise. Chairman, I don't see why we can't do that. I think we've acknowledged that we're going to take a look at that as one of the corrective action plan findings.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, I'll ask you the same question. Should the Corps do something like those other agencies that have a similar role in working with private stakeholders in assessing fees?
Chairman, I would say that we're going, two of the three things you said were publication, so more transparency on fees, and re-looking at those on a regular basis. Yes, we should be mirroring, and that's part of our improvement plan, is to do that. In terms of how they set their fees, I think we've talked to BLM in particular before about how they do it, and we've done some comparison there. I don't know if ours needs to be exactly the same, but certainly we need to be looking at their models to see if we can incorporate what they have done. No sense reinventing the wheel if we already have a good model, but we do have different authorities and different missions, so I don't know if it will be applicable across the board 100%.
Okay. Mr. Von, examining other agencies to compare to the Corps was outside the scope of your report. However, did you find that the Corps abides by any federal regulations when it comes to assessing administrative fees? Do they abide by GAO's guidance on the matter?
So in terms of abiding by federal regulation, yes, they have their own regulatory authority to charge fees. We didn't
find... Was it consistent with any other government agency, or was it inconsistent?
So it's a little different.
Okay.
I think you mentioned that some of the agencies are using the authority under OMB 825 that allows government agencies to charge user fees. Those fees go back into the general fund. The Army Corps has its own authority that it sought in the late 90s that allows it to charge fees, but then use those fees to cover its own costs rather than go into appropriations. That was a result of earlier in the 90s when the Corps' appropriations were cut, and so they didn't have the funding to provide real estate services, or enough funding to provide real estate services, and so because that funding was not coming back to the Corps. So that's why they sought that authority. We didn't find that they were out of alignment with any of those regulations. Of course, as I outlined earlier, with respect to our design guide, they certainly look at and charge fees according to the beneficiaries, right? So the beneficiaries of the service are getting the fee. So that's part of the design guide. They do have processes in place to consider public benefits versus private benefits. So there's a beneficiary pay concept in the design guide. So if you're the direct beneficiary of the service, then you should be paying some portion of that or all of it. And so they do have a process for examining that and for providing waivers in some instances where they determine that there's more of a public benefit than a private benefit.
And you may have answered this, but because the Corps in the Department of Defense, does that change the way they have to administer fees? Is that a problem, or
Well, the Department of Defense also has its own regulation for fees, but it's that's kind of on the same under the OMB.
Up ahead, the long-running legal saga of Sam Bankman-Fried will come to an end today. A district judge is set to announce the sentence of the FTX founder at a Manhattan courthouse. That and more when we return with NTD News.
Disney and Florida have settled their lawsuit, but did either of them come out on top? We get legal analysis on the dispute.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow, towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all My Towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
I didn't ask to lose my mother or to be abused at 5 years old. I didn't ask to be kicked out of my house with nowhere to go. I didn't ask for any of this. But I did ask for help, and Covenant House was there. Thanks to their love and support, and to generous people like you, I got what I needed to take control of my life.
For the young people who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations, Covenant House is there providing safety, hope, and a brighter future. Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. 1 in 10 young adults will experience homelessness this year. Your gift can help reach them when they need it most.
I didn't ask for my parents and my family to disown me. I didn't ask to end up in a homeless shelter. The beauty of it all is that I found Covenant House.
The need is overwhelming, but your monthly support will make sure no young person is ever turned away. Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today. If there's no Covenant House, where would I be today?
Your monthly gift is urgently needed to reach young people in communities like yours who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations. Show them they're loved and not alone. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
And we're going to continue taking a look at the House hearing into the Army Corps of Engineers.
Witnesses testified whether there's overcharging of real estate administrative fees to public and private entities.
Of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer activities related to administrative fees, their methodology.
Their methodology,
Yeah.
right. So most districts are basically it's the hours it takes to conduct an activity times the cost of conducting that activity, which is not an unreasonable way of looking at it, right? But the way that you calculate those two inputs varied, right? So you might have a district that's, we see that we have, this is kind of our, the range of folks that might be doing this work, and their pay rates are this and that, and we have a certain overhead cost that we apply. And so this is the rate that we'll use to multiply by the certain number of hours. Those hours are an estimate usually. It may take 5 hours, it might take 10 hours to do this work. And then some other districts would look towards headquarters, which has a resource that provides some general guidelines of like that there's anything might take 10 hours or anything, or here's a basic rate you can use. And so the key thing that we noted is that none of those, in either instance, are those tied to the actual costs that the Corps experiences. This is particularly for the standard fees because they're not tracking what those actual costs for the standard fees might be. In the case of the special fees, those have their own budget line item, right? So those are tracked a little bit more closely, the more complex ones. But for the standard fees, there's not really a look, going back to look and see whether those costs, what was charged, actually aligned with the actual costs.
So how did you work to ensure the reliability of the data used in your analysis, particularly regarding the selection of divisions, districts, and individual fees for examination?
So we looked at, in terms of the way that we looked at this, is we selected districts and divisions that had the highest dollar amount of fees and the highest number of these types of fees, and included the top 3 in our study in terms of divisions, and then the top 2 districts in each of those divisions were included in our study. It's not entirely representative of the whole universe, but we felt it was really captured the bulk of and all the different types of experiences you might have in terms of the administrative fees. Then we looked at, just sort of how the Corps went about it. We didn't dive into whether the inputs that they were using, the reliability of those specific inputs, for example, whether the average hourly rate they were using was a reliable figure or not. We didn't determine that exactly. All we sort of focused on is the fact that that was not consistent across districts, as well as the fact that it was usually not tied to the actual cost that they incurred in the work that they were doing.
So were there any notable trends or inconsistencies identified in how these fees were set and shared with fee payers and the public?
Yeah, so generally, like as I mentioned before, fee payers, they get usually a letter that describes that we're going to be charging you this particular fee. It didn't really have any further information about that, and then of course if you were to seek out on the website or elsewhere to try to find more information on the fees, that was generally inconsistent. You might find some information that they charge fees, but not a lot of detail about what those fees are or how they're calculated. In the case of custom fees, it's a different story. Custom fees, the Corps will provide a more detailed estimate of what that custom fee looks like before the work is done, because they're typically much more costly. But in terms of the standard fees, that's generally what we found.
Out of curiosity, were there any obstacles in trying to obtain your necessary research for the report?
No, we didn't really experience.
I face a lot of obstacles in one particular investigation I'm a part of, but that doesn't have anything to do with the Corps of Engineers.
No, the Corps was very willing to share information with us along the way. Yeah.
What are some examples of instances where the Corps practices align well with federal guidelines and where improvements were needed?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, where we did find that they sort of generally aligned with our design guide was in sort of considering the beneficiary pays principle and in having policies in place and processes in place to consider waivers and things of that nature. So determining what is a public benefit versus a private benefit, and then setting those fees accordingly and charging the appropriate parties for those fees. The other areas where we looked at in terms of the design of the fee, that's where we got into the consistency and found some issues with consistency in terms of how the fee is calculated, as well as tracked, right? So that's part of our design guide, talks about having a consistent methodology for designing the fee and tracking the costs associated with that.
So did the Corps adhere to federal guidelines such as GAO's design guide for federal user fees, federal financial accounting standards, and Department of Defense policy?
With respect to our design guide, we would say that there were some, they were somewhat lacking in adherence to the design guide, yes.
So can you discuss GAO's design guide for federal user fees and how it serves to ease the burden on taxpayers?
Sure. The idea behind the design guide is really to provide federal agencies with a resource to sort of consider how these fees should be set. So it has three parts that we looked at. One is about setting fees. That includes this beneficiary pays principle, also considers.
And joining us now is host of NTD's Business Matters, Don Ma, to give us the latest updates from the tech and business world.
Don, welcome. So what do you have for us today?
Yeah, just two quick things, and one of them is Chinese leader Xi Jinping's effort to woo investors back to China, and as well as a quick one on Sam Bankman-Fried and his sentencing today. So let me start with renewed efforts are underway in the country to actually win back foreign investors and boost its struggling economy. And regime leader Xi Jinping met with more than a dozen American CEOs and academics as well to advocate for continued investment in China. But confidence in China is actually weak right now from global executives. Foreign direct investment shrank nearly 20% in the first months of the new year compared to a year ago. Businesses, investors are wary of regulatory crackdowns, intensified national security laws, and slower growth as well. So Xi is attempting to boost the economy by shifting focus from its troubled real estate sector to manufacturing, actually. But other countries as well are already on alert that China's industrial dominance could overflow the market with low-cost, high-tech exports.
Okay, so tell us more about Sam Bankman-Fried's sentencing.
Yeah, so the hearing is going on right now. The long-running legal saga of Sam Bankman-Fried seems like will come to an end today, and announced the sentencing of the FTX founder at a hearing today. The judge stated that Bankman-Fried lied on the witness stand actually at his fraud trial last year. Bankman-Fried claimed he did not know that his hedge fund spent customer deposits taken from the FTX cryptocurrency exchange. Judge Kaplan also found that FTX customers lost $8 billion. FTX equity investors lost $1.7 billion. Lenders to the Alameda Research hedge fund that Bankman-Fried founded lost $1.3 billion. So he rejected Bankman-Fried's argument that customers would be paid back in full through the bankruptcy process. Bankman-Fried has apologized, but District Judge Lewis Kaplan's finding that he committed perjury is potentially an ominous sign for Bankman-Fried. The judge has not yet announced the sentence, and the hearing could last hours.
All right. Thank you very much, Don, for those updates.
Thank you.
Yeah, host of Business Matters. We appreciate it. Now that Disney and Florida have settled their dispute, did either of them come out on top? For insight into cases and the impact, earlier I spoke with David Gelman. He's a criminal defense attorney and former federal prosecutor. David, great to see you. Now break down the significance of this settlement for us.
Well, you know, David, Disney World I don't think is going to be the happiest place on earth today. And the reason I'm saying this is because Disney, I understand it was a settlement. However, Disney really lost the lawsuit. Now, Disney and the state of Florida, they pretty much sued each other, and they settled the case, if you will. But it was really Disney backed off against the state of Florida. And they did so because they were going to lose. Disney backed off because they knew that if they continued going down this path, they were going to lose their special exemption, meaning they were going to lose their tax benefits, they were going to lose their property benefits, they were going to lose pretty much every benefit they had, and they had quite a bit to lose against the state of Florida. So they did the right decision, and they should have never done this in the first place, pick a fight with a state as powerful as Florida is. So again, never should have gone to this far, but you know, they came to their senses, and I'm glad they did what they had to do.
And David, what were the arguments made by both sides?
Well, Disney claimed that Florida pretty much was going too far in their authority. They were saying that Florida was pretty much like a dictatorship, that Florida was trying to rule them, and they were overstepping their bounds, overstepping their role as a government, if you will. Florida stated that Disney thought that they are their own government. Both had good arguments, if you will. However, when you're going against a state, you don't have a lot of grounds, if you will. And I think Florida really did have a better argument than Disney. Disney really thought that they were their own entity, their own government, their own set of rules, if you will. And they do to a certain extent, but you are in a state, you are domiciled in the state of Florida. So you do have to abide by their laws, and they didn't think that they had to.
How does this settlement affect business rights and dynamics in Florida?
Well, again, we don't know the details of the settlement, but I have to just conjure that there's going to be tax benefits and tax incentives, if you will, for Disney to keep going in the state of Florida and to build more properties in the state of Florida, to get more jobs and businesses in the state of Florida, and to incentivize other businesses to come to the state of Florida. Now, remember, during COVID, state of Florida has gotten a lot more people to move there, and businesses have moved to the state of Florida. This, I think, is just going to incentivize other people and other businesses to move to Florida. So, the tax breaks and tax incentives are just adding up and adding up. So I don't think this is going to be a bad thing for Florida. This is just going to help them more.
All right, David, thank you so much for being with us and giving us your insight.
Hey, David, thanks for having me.
Up next, new information on the victims of the Moscow attack. What reports now say about the dozens of people who are still missing.
Ukraine's president says Russia will attack Europe if Ukraine loses the war. Russia, meanwhile, says it would never attack NATO because the U.S. is too strong. More when we return.
I went to Dr. Benatti and he went ahead and looked at my pictures. He told me, you have pain here, you have pain here. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'd been to others, but he was a doctor that didn't want to fillet my back open like a fish and do like open spine surgery because everybody else wanted to do that and I was not having it. The anesthesiologist who was working with me, I was like having a conversation with this guy, and then I was watching on the monitor as Dr. Benatti is fixing my back. I really felt like I was in good hands.
Visit askbenatti.com.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, ride your bike.
If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it.
If you're happy and you know it, smile big and bright.
Thousands of kids just like me are happy every day.
And it's all because of generous people like you who support Shriners Hospitals for Children every month.
All you have to do is call the number on your screen or go online to loveshriners.org right now with your monthly gift.
Because of people like you, Shriners Hospitals for Children is able to make an everyday miracle happen for kids like me.
If you're happy and you know it, dance around. If you're happy and you know it, play a song.
If you're happy and you know it, and your face will surely show it.
If you're happy and you know it, take a shot.
And when you call or go online right now to donate $19 a month or more, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of all the smiles you're bringing to kids' faces every day.
Will today be the day you send your love to the rescue?
When you call the number on your screen right now and give as little as $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you'll be making a life-changing difference for a child, just like Sarah.
Your monthly gift today could change your life forever.
Because of you.
We are happy and we know it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please, call or go online right now to give. If operators are busy, please wait patiently or go to loveshriners.org right away.
What if you could feel in control of your retirement in just a few clicks? At aceyourretirement.org, you can. Start with a free 3-minute chat with Avo, your friendly digital retirement coach. Just answer some simple questions like, how do you feel about your ability to save for retirement? Or in how many years do you want to retire? To get free action items customized just for you, get your retirement back on track at aceyourretirement.org.
I'm Iris Tao at the White House, and we are NTD.
And now we have some short headlines from Russia, Poland, and other European countries. Almost 100 people are reportedly still missing after last week's attack near Moscow.
The official toll from the attack stands at 140 dead and 180 wounded. But a Russian news service says almost 100 more missing people appeared in lists compiled by emergency services.
That's after gunmen at Crocus City Hall attacked concert-goers with automatic weapons and set a music venue on fire. Russian President Vladimir Putin this week explained his stance on NATO countries.
He says Russia has no plans to attack Poland, the Baltic states, or the Czech Republic, but warns that if the West supplies F-16 fighters to Ukraine, then they will be shot down by Russian forces.
Putin says foreign governments are using Russia to scare their citizens.
U.S. defense spending is about 40% of the world's total defense spending. Russia accounts for 3.5%. So are we going to war with NATO with that kind of ratio? It's just nonsense. This is yet another way to fool their own people and make the people spend more on defense and make them carry this burden.
The invasion of Ukraine has triggered Russia's deepest crisis with the West since the Cold War. The Kremlin says relations with Washington have probably never been worse.
Ukraine said yesterday that if F-16 fighter jets should arrive in the coming months, Kyiv has been seeking the aircraft for many months. Multiple European countries said they'll donate them. Other countries pledged to train Ukrainian pilots.
And while Putin said he wouldn't attack NATO, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy isn't buying it. He warns Russia could expand the war.
Zelenskyy points to the importance of aid for his country. He suggests this not only protects Ukraine, but also other allied nations.
The president says he's thankful for the help he's receiving, but he told CBS News the war could quickly spread to Europe and then to the U.S. if aid stops coming in. Poland and Ukraine are closer to reaching an agreement regarding food imports. That's according to Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk.
The two countries are holding talks as Warsaw seeks to stop farmers' protests. Farmers in Poland and across Europe want to bring back import taxes on food from Ukraine.
Those taxes were waived after Russia's invasion in 2022. Farmers say Ukraine is now flooding Europe with cheap imports that leave them unable to compete. The Greek government faces a no-confidence vote today. That's over the handling of a train crash last year that killed 57 people. It's the worst accident in the country's recent history.
Media reports emerged this week alleging manipulation of evidence. Leftist opposition parties submitted a motion to censure against the conservative government. They're accusing them of, quote, trying to hide the truth.
The government denies wrongdoing and is expected to survive the vote given its party's majority. For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app.
And be sure to stick around for NTD Newsroom at 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll cover more stories from the U.S. and around the world.
What's happened to this world we're living in? Why?
For the 4 years he has been on this earth, he has known nothing but war.
Wherever I go, the things I see, I just want to turn away. the dreams I have, the stories I could tell, will they still be possible? This year, more than ever, I need a brand new world, a clean world. Where I can improve myself and be inspired. My stage can be anywhere and everywhere, but it begins here.
Ganjing World, a brighter way of life.
My dad's name was David. He always talked about getting life insurance, and now it's too late.
No one was expecting my husband Dave to suffer from a heart attack. We didn't have life insurance. We thought we had more time.
Don't be Dave. And don't wait until it's too late to get the life insurance coverage you need. And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Call now to get affordable life insurance.
Just call
800-494-1562.
If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam, no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Remember, don't be Dave. Call now.
Call now.
800-494-1562.
I'm Ilka. I live with my daughter and with my grandchildren. There's a sense of comfort that comes with eating a good meal. We try to make the most, of what we have. We have rent to pay, and then there are lights and there are gas. And while my daughter and I both work, it still just doesn't seem like there's enough to go around sometimes.
Every day, millions of our neighbors face hunger, including 1 in 5 children, and food costs keep rising. Please call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Your monthly support can fill plates with nutritious food for families across the country and in your community, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks and volunteers.
If you were over and playing with us, you were part of our family and you were going to eat. A real cook can take nothing and make something.
No one should ever have to wonder if they will have enough to eat, and our neighbors are working hard to feed their families every day. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger from coast to coast and in your own community. Use your credit card and you'll get this exclusive canvas grocery bag as a thank you for joining hands with people across America to help end hunger.
Some of the lessons that I hope that my family will take, it is important to treat people the way that you want to be treated. I have carried on the tradition of loving people through food.
Please call right now or go online to make a monthly gift at helpfeedingamerica.org. Your support helps our neighbors bring food home to their families.
Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are our top stories.
The U.S. and Israel will reschedule a high-level meeting that was called off last minute. Find out more about their plans.
Former President Trump in New York today to attend the wake of a slain NYPD officer. And President Biden also in the city for a high-profile fundraiser with former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton.
Focus is now shifting to salvage operations after the deadly Baltimore bridge collapse. Luis Martinez has the latest in the ongoing investigation.
The Mexican government says it wants to pay Venezuelan migrants to go back to their home country. But is this a real plan or just a tactic? What the migrants say about it.
In Georgia, Trump's attorney argues that the indictment should be dismissed because the allegations violate the First Amendment. Our legal correspondent breaks it down for us.
For the first time, the Netherlands publicly condemns China's cyber espionage. Find out what the country's prime minister mentioned to Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Hi, I'm David Lamb, sitting in for Chris Beers.
And to begin the show, as they gear up for a November face-off, President Biden and former President Trump are set to visit New York City today.
Biden has a fundraiser planned with former Presidents Obama and Clinton. Trump is set to attend a wake for slain NYPD officer Jonathan Diller. Here's more.
Trump has made support for law enforcement a focal point of his campaign against Biden in November's election. Polls indicate that the contest will be close. A Trump campaign spokesperson said that Trump was moved by the invitation to attend a wake for Officer Jonathan Diller. Diller was a 3-year veteran of the force. He was fatally shot during a traffic stop on Monday in Queens. Trump often portrays crime as out of control at his campaign rallies. Last year, he warned that America was becoming a lawless, open borders, crime-ridden, filthy communist nightmare. Trump posted a tribute to Officer Diller on his Truth Social platform on Tuesday. Across the aisle, President Biden is leaning on support from his Democratic predecessors. Former President Barack Obama met with Biden last week at the White House. He's agreed to several campaign appearances for Biden before November. One of those is a star-studded Manhattan fundraiser, which will also feature former President Bill Clinton. Late Show host Stephen Colbert will moderate a conversation between the three Democrats at Radio City Music Hall Thursday. Actress Mindy Kaling is set to host the program, with celebrity guests like Lizzo and Queen Latifah. The fundraiser is expected to be Biden's most lucrative to date. He already has a significant cash advantage over Trump, but his campaign has been plagued with low poll numbers and doubts about his age.
The woman who admitted to stealing President Biden's daughter Ashley's diary didn't show up at her sentencing yesterday. A federal judge says she faces arrest as soon as tomorrow.
According to court papers, Amy Harris stole the diary after staying at a home in Delray Beach, Florida. Ashley Biden had once stayed at the home and was storing the diary and other possessions there.
Amy Harris allegedly helped sell the diary to the media group Project Veritas. Harris and an accomplice reportedly got $20,000 each for the diary, Ashley Biden's family photos, and other items.
Harris's lawyers had earlier told the judge that the Florida resident was unable to attend the sentencing because of childcare and other issues.
The sentencing is now postponed for a third time until April 9th. Christie says running on a third-party candidacy is out of the question for him. The former Republican presidential candidate rejected the idea yesterday. In a statement, the former New Jersey governor said while he appreciates the encouragement, it's not an avenue he wants to pursue.
Christie added that he can't have his candidacy help Trump retake the White House.
Christie ended his long-shot presidential run as a GOP contender in January, before New Hampshire's primary.
And a mail-in ballot rule in Pennsylvania was upheld by an appeals court yesterday. The law allows the state to discard ballots if the dates on their envelopes are missing or incorrect. Thousands of ballots could be rejected in Pennsylvania, a crucial battleground state. Voting rights advocates, including the Pennsylvania State Conference of the NAACP, challenged the rule. They argued it could disenfranchise voters. Democrats actively used mail-in voting in 2020, helping Biden win the state over Trump by around 80,000 votes. More than 10,000 ballots were discarded in Pennsylvania during the 2022 midterms due to paperwork errors. The voting rights groups are considering appealing the decision to the U.S. Supreme Court. And now for some updates on the Israel-Hamas war.
Israel appears to ease tensions with the U.S. after canceling a delegation to Washington, D.C. last minute.
The White House confirmed that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to reschedule the meeting. An Israeli official said Netanyahu was considering sending his delegation as early as next week.
Netanyahu called off a high-level delegation after the U.S. allowed a Gaza ceasefire resolution to pass at the United Nations. This marked a new wartime low in U.S.-Israeli relations.
The meeting will focus on military plans for the city of Rafah. The U.S. has been pushing Israel to consider alternatives to a ground operation.
Israel's Strategic Affairs Minister and National Security Advisor, who are Netanyahu's close confidants, will lead the delegation.
And joining us now to discuss is David Mencer, a spokesman for the Israeli government. David, welcome. Great to speak with you. To begin with, what is the Israeli government seeking in this meeting with the White House?
Stephanie, thank you very much for inviting me on. When all is said and done, I think it's safe to say, and most commentators and Middle East watchers know this, that the relationship between Israel and the US is absolutely unbreakable. And of course, the bipartisan nature of that relationship is extremely important to Israel. So yes, of course, we thought it was a mistake for the US to abstain at the vote in the United Nations Security Council, mainly for the primary reason of the results, which have been that the only people that really celebrated that vote were Iran and Hamas, the genocidal, murderous organization of Hamas. Those were the only two groups that celebrated that vote.
Yes.
And of course, they are our enemies in Israel, but they're also the US enemies as well.
Yeah, and I wanted to look at this vote for a ceasefire. International pressure for a ceasefire seems to be building. What would be the impact, in your view, on the international community if a ceasefire were to somehow take effect?
Well, look, this war could end this afternoon if Hamas would release our hostages, 134 of them brutally snatched from us on the 7th of October. 35 or 36 of them we know, unfortunately, are no longer alive. Hamas has killed them. So if those hostages were released and Hamas laid down its arms, this war would end instantly this afternoon. But of course, we're not so naive to think that that will happen. The most important thing we want to share with the American people and really the entire globe is that there are 4 battalions of Hamas left in Rafah. 4 very important, the last 4 actually, 4 or 5 battalions left in Rafah, and we must go after them because, as Benny Gantz, our minister in the Security Cabinet, has made clear, you cannot put out 80% of a fire and then leave 20% of that fire still roaring, because eventually it will take hold again in all of Gaza. And Hamas have been very, very clear on this. Hamas say they want to do October the 7th again and again and again, which means we must destroy Hamas in Rafah. The last vestiges, we must get rid of them so that we can return to peace in the region.
And Hamas terrorists have been decidedly against the latest ceasefire proposal. So this vote for a ceasefire doesn't really involve them yet. But looking at the Biden administration, they've grown more vocal about minimizing civilian losses in Gaza. And considering this potential Rafah incursion, what can the Israeli government offer on that front in these talks?
Well, look, for 5 months, almost 5.5 months, the US and Israel were absolutely shoulder to shoulder on the battle to get rid of Hamas. And even today, we share the same objectives, which is, of course, to rid Gaza of Hamas and make sure that Hamas can no longer be a threat to our people and to, of course, to release the hostages. So what the US are looking for, you'll have to ask the US that, the US administration, but there are concerns about the humanitarian issues, and we've already displayed that we can get people, ordinary people, unconnected civilians out of harm's way and go after the terrorists. We've done it before and we can do it again. That is our objective, to move civilians out of harm's way and to get at the terrorists, so that this calamity of the 7th of October, which Hamas says they would like to repeat again and again, can never happen again.
And just lastly, David, you mentioned that the bond between the U.S. and Israel remains strong. Do you think that this vote, this recent Security Council vote, has changed the dynamic between the two countries at all? And how could that potentially impact these talks?
Yes, of course, Stephanie. The relationship is the most important relationship, I think, to both countries. It is an unbreakable bond, and both leaders will readily admit that. But in the final analysis, the leader of the democratically elected leader of the State of Israel has the entire country, the 9 or 10 million people living here in Israel, has the entire country behind him. And they demand, and the Prime Minister also demands, that public security, the security of our people, is the first priority of any leader. We must get rid of Hamas from Gaza. It would be like, going all the way through Europe in the 1945 at the end of the Second World War, but deciding to just stop at the borders of Berlin and not to actually go for that total victory. We're going for total victory because we know if Hamas is left as a fighting force, they will regroup and they will attack us again. And that will be bad for Gazans. It'll be terrible for Israelis, and it'll be terrible for world peace as well. We need to get back to peace. We need to get back to the Abraham Accords, and we need to build a better future for the people of Gaza.
Okay, thank you so much. David Mencer, Israeli government spokesman. Thank you.
You're welcome, Stephanie. Thank you.
And disgraced financier Sam Bankman-Fried has been sentenced to 25 years in prison. He was in a federal court in Manhattan today for the sentencing. In a statement to the court, Bankman-Fried said, quote, "I am sorry about what happened at every stage, and there are things I should have done and things I shouldn't have."
Bankman-Fried is a co-founder and former CEO of cryptocurrency exchange FTX. He was found guilty on 7 counts of fraud and conspiracy.
The U.S. District Judge Lewis Kaplan, who is overseeing the case, says Bankman-Fried committed witness tampering and perjury during his trial testimony. Coming up, a shuttered nuclear plant is going to reopen with the help of the Biden administration. What's driving this reverse course?
Commuters driving into Manhattan are set to get hit with some hefty fees. More on the MTA's new congestion tolls and who will be affected in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
One in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, not enough energy to play. All around the world, hunger is affecting children's physical and mental health. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. Conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we are fed up. Fed up that hunger devours dreams. Fed up that hunger destroys joy. Fed up with the fact that hunger eats childhood. Help us feed the futures of children all over the world by visiting getfedupnow.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients, prevent children from dropping out of school, support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Having your childhood eaten away by hunger is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit getfedupnow.org.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
These are all farmers. Maybe
no,
not this
not
one.
a farm anymore.
But here's a farm, right?
No, there's also not a farm anymore.
All these people shut down because of the government policies?
Yeah.
The government wants to control the food. So we don't eat meat, but we eat insect.
As the price of staples goes through the roof, people will say, I can't afford a steak anymore. So, all right, I'll eat your stupid crickets.
Hi, I'm Kelly Wright. We thank you for joining us and watching America's Hope here on NTD News. Bottom line is, I know you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, but let's give you some good news in the midst of the bad news. Watch us nightly, right here on NTD News, for a full dose of America's Hope.
Bodies of 2 of the 6 missing construction workers have been recovered after the deadly Baltimore bridge collapse. The investigation into the collision is now underway.
Our reporter Luis Martinez is on the scene. Luis, what can you tell us about the investigation?
Good afternoon. Yes, as you just mentioned, yesterday 2 bodies were recovered from the 6 people that were missing, but now authorities have switched from a recovery operation to a salvage operation. That means that divers are no longer going into the water to search for the remaining missing people because they are presumed to be under the collapsed superstructure, which needs to be removed in order for it to be safe for divers to go in. We also know that the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, has acquired the voice data recorder from the Dolly, the ship that struck the bridge. They have about 6 hours of voice recording from about midnight to 6 a.m. on the day the bridge collapsed on March 26. Let's listen to what Jennifer Homedy, the chair of the National Transportation Safety Board, had to say about the bridge, the structure itself.
The bridge is fracture critical. It's a fracture critical bridge. What that means is if a member fails, that would likely cause a portion of or the entire bridge to collapse. There's no redundancy. The preferred method for building bridges today is that there is redundancy built in, whether that's transmitting loads to another member or some sort of structural redundancy. This bridge did not have redundancy.
So it's very interesting because there's about 17,000 fracture critical bridges in the United States out of 700,000 bridges in the country so far. When that bridge collapsed, the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed over the Dolly, it also damaged about 56 containers that had hazardous materials, about 700 tons of hazardous materials. So, of course, authorities are now very much concentrated on removing these hazardous materials and the debris from the collapsed bridge. Let's listen to what Senator Van Hollen, Democrat from Maryland, had to say about the priorities after this terrible disaster.
The fact that the Port of Baltimore is one of the busiest ports in America, the biggest port for cars unloading and offloading, thousands and thousands of workers directly employed there, and then tens of thousands more whose livelihood depends on it. So opening the channel is the priority.
So authorities are right now concentrating on recuperating all the data they can and all of that perishable evidence, all that evidence that once the cleanup is completed will be, lost to history. Also, we know that, and it's very important for the Baltimore Harbor and the Northeast economy, barges are already underway here to begin the salvage and the cleaning of the Baltimore Harbor. David, Steph, back to you.
All right, Luis Martinez reporting there live from Baltimore. Thank you so much. And driving in Manhattan is about to get a lot more expensive.
The Metropolitan Transportation Authority Board approved the toll rates for the borough's congestion pricing program. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the plan, which is the first of its kind in the U.S.
Starting in mid-June, New York City will charge a daily toll of $15 during the day for passenger vehicles driving in Manhattan south of 60th Street. It will charge up to $36 for larger trucks and buses.
New York has more traffic than any place in the United States, and now we're doing something about it.
The CEO of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority called it a huge day for the region.
When I came in as the MTA chair, one of the things that we agreed upon is we were going to try to do the big stuff and the hard stuff.
The plan still faces a number of legal challenges, including from the state of New Jersey. This local driver says no one can afford it.
It's a lot of money. So they want us to drive. I'm asthmatic. I don't want to be on a train. It's not healthy for me. So that's why I choose to drive.
This food vendor who drives his cart into Midtown Manhattan every day says the new toll rates will put his business in danger.
Now everything go up. Food goes up. Okay, lettuce, tomato, whatever I buy, everything go up. And people don't want to spend so much money. They want a good deal.
The small business owner says the new rates are good for no one but the city. New York says more than 900,000 vehicles enter the Manhattan Central Business District daily, with travel speeds reduced to around 7 miles an hour. The city says the charge will cut traffic by 17% and improve air quality. Officials say it will also generate $1 to $1.5 billion a year. Passenger vehicle drivers who enter at night will pay $3.75, while motorcycle riders will pay up to $7.50 to enter the area. Drivers will only be charged once per day. Taxi users will pay a $1.25 surcharge, while Uber and Lyft users will pay $2.50 per trip in the congestion zone. Those fees are in addition to New York's $2.50 congestion charge for taxis and $2.75 for for-hire vehicles in place since 2019. Lower-income vehicle owners may qualify for 50% discounts for some trips or for New York State tax credits under the plan. New York City is set to follow London, which implemented a similar charge in 2003. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
The Biden administration says it will provide a $1.5 billion loan to restart a nuclear power plant in Michigan. Holtec International acquired the Palisades plant in 2022 with plans to dismantle it. The emphasis now is on restarting it by late 2025. It follows support from both Michigan and the Biden administration.
Governor Gretchen Whitmer said it would be the first nuclear power plant to be reopened in the U.S.
It still faces hurdles, including inspections, testing, and the blessing of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission.
Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm said nuclear power is the single largest source of carbon-free electricity. She also said it directly supports 100,000 jobs across the country and hundreds of thousands of jobs indirectly.
And Mexico might pay Venezuelan migrants to return to their home country. But is the plan going to work? The migrants would have to accept the idea and turn themselves in to Mexican authorities. Last week, the Mexican government said it would give Venezuelans around $100 a month. As part of the program, they will also have the opportunity to work for different companies in both countries.
But migrants in a caravan now say they fear Mexico's real plan is to jail people before deporting them back without any payments.
It's a lie. I know it's a lie. They say they will offer us money so we turn ourselves in. They are going to take down our information and lock us away in jails. Then they are going to release us and deport us without anything. It's all a lie.
Don't agree with being deported for money. Most migrants prefer to keep on moving to secure a better future for our families.
Tensions between migrants and the Mexican government have been rising. The Center for Immigration Studies told NTD that Mexican law enforcement started aggressively tackling the immigration crisis in recent months.
Almost all migrants we spoke with at the southern border earlier this month agreed. They say passing through Mexico was one of the journey's toughest parts.
They claimed Mexican authorities would handle them aggressively, abuse them verbally, and often send them back all the way to Guatemala. And Southwest Airlines is preparing to join the ranks of other carriers that offer overnight flights. The all-economy airline announced yesterday it's planning to start offering red-eye flights for the first time. The flights are expected to start out of Las Vegas and Hawaii within 2 years. Southwest says it hopes to offer about 50 red-eye flights a day. Such flights are common in the industry, but Southwest didn't have a booking system that could handle them until 2017. Southwest management says the 2-year window will allow the airline to work out all the technical and labor details. The new flights could help Southwest pick up its growth after it had to cut future forecasts due to problems with the Boeing 737 MAX airplane.
Subaru is recalling nearly 120,000 Outback and Legacy vehicles over potentially faulty airbag sensors. The recall involves the 2020 through 2022 model years.
A capacitor in the occupant detection system sensors may crack and short circuit. That could prevent the front passenger airbag from deploying during a crash.
Dealers will replace the sensors for free. Impacted owners will be notified of the recall by mail. It's a milestone that will be tough on the wallets of prospective college students: $90,000 a year tuition. Several New England universities and colleges have reached or surpassed the $90K mark for undergraduate tuition and costs starting this fall. Yale University, Tufts University, Boston University, and Wellesley College are among a few private institutions who will top this year's cost for tuition, housing, and other expenses. That's according to the school's websites. For the 2024-2025 school year, Tufts estimates its undergraduate program expenses get close to $96,000. That tops Wellesley at about $92,000. Yale comes in at around $91,000. Boston University's website says it offers expanded financial aid packages that can make up the difference between the cost of attendance and affordability.
Coming up, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is talking tough on China's ramped up renewable energy production. She says it hurts American companies and workers. More on her words and the outlook for China in the EV market.
Another group of U.S. lawmakers visiting Taiwan. Hear their message during a meeting with the island's president. We have the details when we come back.
I have never seen a production any better than this, anywhere.
Breathtaking. It is absolutely stunning.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
Invigorating. It was encouraging, gave me hope.
This has just been therapy for the soul.
It's a must-see. Must-see.
Make sure you see it. Make sure you see it.
Coming to Lincoln Center, NJ Pack, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. Genuine.com.
The biggest investigation in FBI history.
There are more than 1,100 arrests.
I sacrificed my dream job to share this information with the American people.
Those involved must be held accountable.
He's an innocent man.
It's going to change narratives no matter what your political perspective is.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
They're just kids, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable.
Abused kids often feel safer on the street. Now, more than ever, that's the most dangerous place of all. Covenant House is rescuing and protecting kids during this COVID-19 crisis. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming, and no child is ever turned away. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month to help a homeless child. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Your gift will show our kids they're loved. Homeless kids are afraid and alone, with nowhere else to turn.
You want to know that there's somewhere you can go that's safe. So the Covenant House did that for us.
Please call now. With your gift of $19 a month, we'll send you this soft, comforting blanket to show you're helping our kids. Please don't wait. In our national crisis, your gift is the lifeline a child needs. Please call or go online to safeplacetosleep.org now. Thank you for saving precious lives.
We're in the nation's capital asking the important questions so that you're in the know. Join us daily, Monday through Friday, on the Capitol Report on NTD News.
Former President Trump's attorney is in a Georgia court today, arguing that the sprawling RICO case must be dismissed. He says the allegations violate the First Amendment. We turn now to our legal correspondent, Arlene Richards, for more details.
Arlene, great to see you again.
Thank you.
What are Trump's arguments regarding the First Amendment?
So his attorney is essentially saying that all of the speech that he made that's alleged in the indictment, everything he said, the conversation with Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, statements he made about the election, that it was rigged, all of this is part of political speech because he was a presidential candidate at the time. So whatever he said about the election is protected by the First Amendment. Now he says these false statements that they're alleging he made about the election, under Georgia's statute, any false statement that he makes is a crime. He said, but under the Constitution, those false statements are protected as long as it's political speech.
And how does the prosecution respond to those arguments?
Well, of course, they say it's not all political speech. They say it's speech that's integral to his intention to commit criminal acts. They say that there are several criminal acts that he was trying to commit through this speech in terms of his conversations with Brad Raffensperger, the false statements he made about the election. These are all done in an effort to, overturn the election. And because these were criminal acts, then they're not protected by the First Amendment.
And what's your sense of how the judge is leaning and where you think this will turn out?
Well, the judge was concerned about overt acts. He asked Trump's attorney whether or not overt acts are protected under the Constitution, under the First Amendment. And he said that it was his understanding, based on his reading of some of the case law, that it was not protected. So he really kind of tried to, pin that down from Trump's attorney as to whether or not, those acts were protected. And we have to remember that this judge has already ruled previously on a motion similar to this one given to him by Sidney Powell and Ken Chesebro before they pleaded out of the case. And at that time, he denied those motions because he said there wasn't enough evidence to demonstrate that this should be dismissed under the Constitution and that this is something that should be heard at the time of trial. Now, with regards to the case itself, the case does not have a trial date yet. Fani Willis, the district attorney, has asked for an August date, but she said she understands that Trump has other cases and that they might conflict, so she's willing to, wait and be more flexible about it. And there also is this appeal that the defendants are appealing, the disqualification ruling that the judge made, which keeps Fani Willis on as the prosecutor. So that could also delay things. So it's not clear whether or not this case will go to trial before the election.
Arlene Richards, legal correspondent, thank you so much for the latest.
Thank you.
Feds raided the properties of music producer and rapper Sean Combs, also known as Diddy, this week. The searches are thought to be connected to a sex trafficking investigation. For legal analysis, I spoke with Barack Lurie, trial attorney at Lurie & Kramer. Barack Lurie, thank you for joining us. Now, Diddy is under federal investigation in relation to sex trafficking. Break down the details of the case for us and what we know so far.
Well, what we know is that there are allegations from civil complaints saying that there was rape involved, that there was forced sex involved by 3 women and 1 man, and that there were all sorts of sexual romps and orgies. This is a big concern. However, it turns out that there's some degree of evidence there must be, because there has to be probable cause for the federals to do what they're doing on Wednesday, and that's and Tuesday. So that's a big cause for alarm for Diddy, and we'll see what this turns out. I mean, it's the fact also that he left for the Caribbean, as it turns out, the same day that these raids were happening on his house. It's very concerning.
Now, Diddy's lawyer on Tuesday said that the searches of the rapper's Los Angeles and Miami properties by federal authorities were, quote, a gross misuse of military-level force. What sort of evidence must law enforcement have in order to get a warrant to carry out these kinds of raids?
All that matters is having probable cause, and probable cause is a very loose term. A judge simply has to see or get testimony from anybody saying, look, I saw cocaine in this place, I saw paraphernalia, maybe child porn, God forbid, in this place, and I think that's what I've seen, and the judge will look at that and say that's probable cause for him and issue a search warrant. Now, the question as to whether or not the military-style raid was appropriate, that's a good question. I don't know. Sometimes they do that because they're concerned that there might be fighting from the other side, in this case, Diddy's mansions. I don't know that they had cause to believe that, but I suppose that they just wanted to be safe.
What do you make of Diddy leaving the country following the raid? Some are accusing him of fleeing. How does this fare for him legally?
Well, fleeing the country is an indication that you might have guilt. Jurors are often told that they can look at somebody's fleeing the country as an indication of guilt. If you're running away from a crime, a bank robbery, for example, that is an indication that you might very well be guilty. So you can take that into account. The question here is whether or not he's actually fleeing. Did he already have this trip planned? Or did it just happen to be at the same time as the raid? I imagine people like him take trips all the time. So his argument will be, look, I was just going to go to the Caribbean. I was going to have some fun time, and I'll be back. So don't see that as fleeing. I personally think it was fleeing, but that's just one man's opinion.
Barack Lurie, trial attorney with Lurie and Kramer, thank you for breaking this down for us.
Thanks for having me.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is calling out China's ramped up production in solar energy, electric vehicles, and lithium-ion batteries. She labeled the practice unfair competition that distorts global prices and hurts American companies and workers.
China is the dominant player in batteries for electric vehicles. It also has a rapidly expanding auto industry that could challenge the world's established car makers as it goes global.
The International Energy Agency says China accounted for around 60% of global electric car sales in 2023.
Yellen delivered her remarks yesterday afternoon at Suniva, a solar cell manufacturing plant in Georgia. The plant closed in 2017, in large part due to cheap imports flooding the market. And Chinese electric vehicle sales in Europe are surging. Over 25% market share is expected this year. That's up about 5% from last year.
China-produced EVs accounted for about a third of EV sales in France and Spain in 2023.
Western brands like Tesla still dominate, but Chinese brands are rapidly expanding.
The reported figures comes as the European Commission investigates government subsidies given to Chinese EV makers, creating concerns of unfair competition. Another congressional delegation in Taiwan. Congressman Jack Bergman reiterating U.S. support during a meeting with Taiwan's president today.
Our delegation is here to show Congress's continued support for our partnership. We will continue to assure our colleagues that this strategic relationship is key for the future security of the region.
The congressional delegation is bipartisan. They're also set to meet with U.S. personnel while in Taiwan, though the delegation did not specify if they were military or civilian.
The Chinese Communist Party sees Taiwan as its own territory, despite never having ruled it. The U.S. doesn't have formal diplomatic relations with the island, but Washington is Taiwan's most important arms supplier. A delegation from the European Parliament also visited Taiwan on Wednesday.
It is a fact of our times that authoritarian regimes and dictators of different colors are coordinating their efforts internationally, opposing human rights, opposing a rules-based international order. Against that backdrop, we strongly believe that it is important that team democracy works together well.
The members of parliament met with President Tsai Ing-wen and lawmakers during the visit.
Tensions are rising between the Netherlands and China. The Dutch Prime Minister said he discussed a cyber attack with Chinese leader Xi Jinping on Wednesday.
It was an attack on the Dutch Ministry of Defense that our military intelligence agency has identified and also attributed to China. So yes, of course, I discussed it.
This is the first time the Netherlands is publicly calling out China for cyber espionage. Dutch intelligence said Chinese hackers breached a Dutch military network last year.
US and UK slapped criminal charges and sanctions on 7 Chinese hackers Monday for breaching the email accounts of millions of Americans and Europeans, from White House staffers to lawmakers in Congress and the European Union.
Earlier this year, the Dutch government blocked manufacturer ASML from exporting some equipment to China. That's over concerns that the tools could be useful for the Chinese military. ASML is a world leader in manufacturing equipment used to make semiconductors.
At NTD's China in Focus, we've prepared a special report for you about Chinese infiltration in U.S. media. Here's a look.
A troubling agenda revealed. Certain Western media outlets are publishing content in line with propaganda from a tyrannical regime, the Chinese Communist Party, at least when it comes to a major human rights violation committed against practitioners of the Falun Gong spiritual movement inside China.
And at the center of that problem, really unfortunately, is the paper of record, the New York Times. Why was this journalism so off the mark? And so here was the leadership of the New York Times meeting with the leadership of the largest tyrannical communist regime on earth.
Watch our exclusive interview with Levi Browdy, executive director of the Falun Dafa Information Center, this Saturday on NTD, 11 a.m. Eastern Time.
Tune in this Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time to learn more.
And now for a shift in gears, we have some short headlines from Russia, Poland, and other European countries. Almost 100 people are reportedly still missing after last week's attack near Moscow.
The official toll from the attack stands at 140 dead and 180 wounded. But a Russian news service says almost 100 more missing people appeared in lists compiled by emergency services.
That's after gunmen at Crocus City Hall attacked concert-goers with automatic weapons and set a music venue on fire. Russian President Vladimir Putin this week explained his stance on NATO countries.
He says Russia has no plans to attack Poland, the Baltic states, or the Czech Republic, but warns that if the West supplies F-16 fighters to Ukraine, then they will be shot down by Russian forces.
Putin says foreign governments are using Russia to scare their citizens.
U.S. defense spending is about 40% of the world's total defense spending. Russia accounts for 3.5%. So are we going to war with NATO with that kind of ratio? It's just nonsense. This is yet another way to fool their own people and make the people spend more on defense and make them carry this burden.
The invasion of Ukraine has triggered Russia's deepest crisis with the West since the Cold War. The Kremlin says relations with Washington have probably never been worse.
Ukraine said yesterday that F-16 fighter jets should arrive in the coming months. Kyiv has been seeking the aircraft for many months. Multiple European countries said they'll donate them. Other countries pledged to train Ukrainian pilots.
While Putin said he wouldn't attack NATO, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy isn't buying it. He warns Russia could expand the war.
Zelenskyy points to the importance of aid for his country. He suggests this not only protects Ukraine, but also other allied nations.
The president says he's thankful for the help he's receiving, but he told CBS News the war could quickly spread to Europe and then to the U.S. if aid stops coming in. Poland and Ukraine are closer to reaching an agreement regarding food imports. That's according to Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk.
The two countries are holding talks as Warsaw seeks to stop farmers' protests. Farmers in Poland and across Europe want to bring back import taxes on food from Ukraine.
Those taxes were waived after Russia's invasion in 2022. Farmers say Ukraine is now flooding Europe with cheap imports that leave them unable to compete. And the Greek government faces a no-confidence vote today. That's over the handling of a train crash last year that killed 57 people. It's the worst accident in the country's recent history.
Media reports emerged this week alleging manipulation of evidence. Leftist opposition parties submitted a motion to censure against the conservative government. They're accusing them of, quote, trying to hide the truth.
The government denies wrongdoing and is expected to survive the vote, given its party's majority. Coming up, to vent or not to vent, we hear from an expert on the best ways to reduce anger and tension, and it may not be what you expect.
Besides forecasting the weather, Punxsutawney Phil now has a new job, being a dad. The family welcomed 2 baby groundhogs just a few days ago. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow, towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all My Towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
We all know that words have power. They set things in motion
and make us happy or sad.
But there's one word that stands out because when people say it, lives are changed.
It's not a big word. It's itsy bitsy.
It's only 3 little letters.
But when you say it, the life of a kid like me can be changed.
So, what is this special word?
It may surprise you.
It's yes.
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 Yes to becoming a monthly supporter of Shriners Hospitals for Children.
That's right. Your monthly support allows the doctors and nurses at Shriners Hospitals for Children to give the most amazing care anywhere and change the lives of kids like me.
And me.
And me. Because people like you have said yes. Now I can play football.
And I can play catch. And I can walk.
So what do you say? Will you say yes right now?
It's so easy.
All you have to do is pick up the phone or go to loveshriners.org right now and say yes. When you say yes to giving just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of all the kids you're helping every day. My life is filled with possibility because of the monthly support of people just like you who called the number on your screen and said yes.
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 Your yes is making a difference in my life and the lives of so many other kids like me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to say yes right away.
For the day's top headlines and the news you need to know, tune in right here to NTD Evening News.
common wisdom says not to bottle up our emotions. But when it comes to anger, letting it out may not be the best solution. To find out what works better, earlier I spoke with Sophie Sharvik. She's a postdoctoral fellow at the Injury and Violence Prevention Program with Virginia Commonwealth University. Sophie, welcome, and thank you for being with us. Now, first of all, tell us about the different dimensions of anger.
Thank you for having me. So anger is a common emotion with potentially destructive consequences, as we all know. Anger has two components. It has physiological arousal, and it has the cognitive or mental interpretation of that arousal. And you can work on either of those components to deal with your anger. Many previous studies have shown that cognitive behavioral therapy is very effective in reducing anger. However, no studies have really examined the focused on physiological components, which is why we focused on that.
Now, popular wisdom suggests that venting reduces anger and aggression, but is this true?
Yeah, popular wisdom or the catharsis theory suggests that if you express your anger, that is good and that will alleviate the anger. However, you might feel good in the moment, but it doesn't alleviate anger in the long term. The best way to reduce anger is to slow down your arousal, not intensify your arousal.
So a review article on Science Direct had a few highlights, and one of them was that anger is one of the unpleasant emotions and is the most difficult one to regulate. Why is that so?
Because anger has high physiological arousal and it's a negative emotion. So just like happiness, you have the high arousal, but also like sadness, you're feeling very blue. And so when you combine those components, it gets really hard to control.
Now, another thing is there's breathing versus venting. Can you elaborate a little bit on this?
Yeah, so when you're venting, you're screaming into a pillow, you're going to a rage room to smash all these things. But when you're breathing and relaxing, you are calming down your nervous system and you're letting the anger cool, like basically you're letting yourself cool down so you can use your mind to deal with the anger instead of the arousal in your body.
Sophie, thank you so much for your insight and for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Groundhog Punxsutawney Phil will soon see two more shadows following him around. And it won't mean more winter for us. He's now a proud dad to two baby groundhogs. His mate Phyllis has just given birth to the healthy babies. That's according to the Groundhog Club.
The names of the young groundhogs haven't been released. The infants are with their parents at the Punxsutawney Memorial Library now. Library visitors can see them through the viewing window. And Burger King is gearing up for the solar eclipse. On April 8th, the fast food chain is giving out free Whoppers in honor of the rare celestial event. The deal is exclusive to Royal Perks members who text ECLIPSE to 251251.
Fans can then redeem the buy one, get one offer through the app. The last total solar eclipse visible in the U.S. happened in 2017.
All right, that's all for today's news.
Thank you for tuning in.
For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app.
And be sure to stick around for NTD Newsroom at 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll cover more stories from the U.S. and around the world.